Okay, today we'll be talking about deployment server. Okay, so deployment server, we can think of it as a tool for distributing configuration, apps, and content updates to a group of Splunk Enterprise instances. Okay, so that means if I just give an example of it, so suppose in normal production scenario, we can have our thousands of forwarders, right, which are basically gathering data from different sources, and let's say they are sending those data to a single server. That means in all those thousands of forwarders, we have a outputs.conf file which is pointing to a single server, right? Now if you think about it, to create that outputs.conf file, you have to basically go to all these 1,000 servers and create that file, right? Instead of that, what we can do is we can maintain this same thing in a deployment server, and what it does, it basically distribute to all this 1,000 servers. We'll see how it happens. Okay, so this is the main functionality of deployment server. Now deployment server can be used not only for forwarders, it can be used to distribute any apps. If you see whatever apps you can see in Splunk base as well, right, those kinds of app also you can distribute using deployment server. Now is deployment server is mandatory? No, there are a lot of other third-party tool as well, like Puppet, Salt, those things you can use that as well. Okay, now if I just quickly go to the architecture of deployment server, it will look something like this. Okay, so where we have a Splunk instance which acts as a deployment server. Now here the question comes, like what Splunk instance I can use as a deployment server. So Splunk recommended way is use a separate Splunk instance itself for the deployment server, or if you cannot afford that and your deployment server has deployment clients, that means if I just tell you in simple words, I just now I given the example of forwarders, right? So those forwarders will be acting as a deployment clients which will poll this deployment server for a particular interval. Okay, that means after let's say 60 seconds or something like that, it will always poll this deployment server just to see any new app updates are coming up or not. Okay, if it is there, the deployment server sends the app as well as the checksum. That means some update happens to that app. Now the deployment clients basically check with this current version of the app and the current checksum with the deployment server provided checksum. If there is something difference, it will poll the app and it will update its own app. Okay, and now this particular update happens through a server class. We'll see how to configure server classes. Okay, with an good example. So if I just go back, like why I just started this deployment server, right? So if you have a deployment server with clients, number of clients less than 50, then in that case you may use a search head or indexer for your deployment server. Okay, for deployment server as well as search head or indexer. But if you have more than 50, it is always recommended that you should use a separate Splunk instance for deployment server. Now deployment server cannot be used with Splunk cluster. Okay, that means searched cluster as well as indexer cluster. No, it is not recommended by Splunk. Okay, there could be some error or something bad happened which we cannot have control on it. Okay, so it is always good not to configure deployment server with Splunk searched cluster or indexer cluster. Okay, but if you have list of indexers or list of searched where you need to deploy something, a app or something, or any configurations, you can always use deployment server for that. Now today we will be implementing a use case. Okay, so for that let me open this one. So I just created this diagram. So this is going to be a little bit lengthy video, and as well as it will be more complex as well as we go forward, so stay with me. Okay, so as I said, right, we will be configuring one deployment server, a separate Splunk instance which we will be taking as a deployment server. So if I just go to Google Cloud, okay, So if you have seen before, like all this Splunk forwarder 1, receiver 2, Windows forwarder, heavy forwarder, I already created video for those things, right? So please check it out, those things. I'll be giving the link for those videos as well. Okay, now the new instance I have created is this guy over here, the Splunk deployment server, which will be acting as a deployment server over here, and I have installed the full stack Splunk over here. Okay, so if I just go back to our diagram, so this is our Splunk deployment server. So this guy is mapped to our Google. I have given the same instance name, deployment server, and the IP address over here. If you see, it's 213.21. So if I just go back over here, 213.21. Okay, similarly, this deployment server will be acting as a server for these 3 clients. So I have one Windows forwarder, the same Windows forwarder I have created in my previous video, right? So this is the one, Win forwarder 1. Okay, so if I just go back over here, so this is my Win forwarder 1. Okay, now there are 2 Linux forwarder. If you see, one is the Splunk forwarder 1, when we created that universal forwarder, right? In Linux instances, we installed that universal forwarder. So this is the same instance over here. I am using it over here. So if I go back over here, so this is the instance which will be acting as a Linux forwarder. Also, I have taken a heavy forwarder over here. Okay, so that heavy forwarder is our heavy forwarder 1. This guy over here, heavy forwarder 1. Okay, so now the Windows forwarder is actually forwarding logs to this indexer 1, so it is Splunk receiver. Okay, so just if I just show you over here, this is our instance where my Windows forwarder will be forwarding the data, and both the Linux forwarder, that means this universal forwarder, and this heavy forwarder will be sending to another Splunk instance called Splunk receiver 2. Okay, which is this guy over here. Okay, so our job is to maintain all the configurations. That means we'll be creating 4 apps over here in the deployment server. Okay, and among those 4 apps, 2 apps will be used by this Windows forwarder, universal forwarder, and other 2 apps will be used by these 2 guys over here to forward the data to indexer. Okay, and those apps will be very simplistic in nature. We only have some inputs and outputs. Okay, we'll see that one. Now, as this will be a very much heavy one, configurations, I'll try to be as much methodical as possible. So what we'll do is, first we'll start from the most leaf layer over here, like our indexer, as it is the only receiving part over here, right? We have very less configurations over here. So we'll first log into these 2 guys over here, as those both of them are Splunk, full-fledged Splunk instance, right? Because these are receivers, right? And we'll just enable the receiving part over here. Okay, so this is our first indexer, and the same thing I actually copied it over here. Okay, so this is our receiver 1 and this is our receiver 2. Okay, so first I will copy this guy and I will log in over there. Now for simplicity purpose, I will close everything. Okay, because we'll be dealing with a lot of servers over here now. So I'll log in over there. If you do not know how to create a full-fledged Splunk instance, just check out my videos on this particular playlist on Splunk admin. Okay, so to check it out whether it is receiving or not, I'll go to settings, forwarding and receiving. I'll go to configure receiving over here. Okay, you already configured it before, right? I'll just enable it. Okay, and also I'll do another thing is I'll go to our search and reporting. If you remember from my previous video, whenever we forward something, right, except apart from the underscore internal index, it also forwards to this main index, right? So I'll just check it out from the main index if previously we have some forwarded data or not. If it is there, we will just delete it so that we can start fresh. Okay, it is there, so we will delete. Okay, so now there is nothing in our main index. Similarly, I will log into the second receiver as well. These 2 guys are quite happy because they do not have much work. So admin monitor right? Then we'll go to settings, we'll go to forwarding and receiving, we'll go to configure receiving, we'll enable it. Similarly, we'll have our index cleared, index equals to main. I'll go for all time search. Yeah, we have some events over here as well, we'll delete it. Okay, so our these two guys are ready, they do not have any other configurations now. Okay, then we'll move it to the next layer where we have our forwarders, right? As we are dealing with deployment server configurations, that means these guys will be acting as a client of this deployment server, right? So that means some configurations we need to do for these guys. Now one thing I need to mention it over here, this deployment server capability, right? When you install Splunk Enterprise, it is automatically turned on, so you do not need to explicitly turn it on. Okay, so that means from the client, if we run some command just to tell, just poll this guy, okay, that is enough. Okay, so for this clients, first we will go to our we'll see it later, Windows 1. First we'll have our Splunk universal forwarder, then we'll go to our heavy forwarder. Okay, so I'll first go to our universal forwarder, so we have to log in from the backend, as forwarder do not have any UI. So this is our Splunk forwarder 1, right? Splunk forwarder 1. I'll just log in over there. It's gonna take some time, I'll just pause it. Okay, we log in over here. First we will sudo to su. Okay, so now what we'll do is we have to somehow tell this guy over here, this universal forwarder over here, to poll this deployment server for a particular interval, right? Now this is how you do it. Now for that I'll go to this guy over here. So there is a command called Splunk set deploy poll, then the IP address of the deployment server and the management port of the deployment server. Okay, so we will be running that command over here. Okay, so for that we need to go to our Splunk home bin folder. So I'll clear this prompt here first. Okay, so we'll go to cd /opt/Splunk forwarder, as it is a universal forwarder over here. Then we'll go to bin folder. Okay, now we will run the command called /splunk set deploy dash poll. Okay, then the deployment server IP address and the deployment server management port over here. Okay, so this is our deployment server, right? So if I just go to our Google Cloud over here, so this is our deployment server, IP is 213.21, right? I'll just copy it from here itself, so as I have the same information over here. Okay, so this is our deployment server IP, then colon the management port over here. Okay, that means the port of Splunk D 8089 over here. I'll just press enter. Now it will ask you for the user ID and password. Okay, okay, so configuration added. Now what file it creates, it's really we need to know this one. Okay, for that we'll go to cd Splunk home, okay, etc system local folder. Okay, it creates a file called deployment client.conf. Okay, so if I just view this file, shift insert. Okay, so if you see this deployment clients.conf, okay, file actually tells the Splunk deployment server, also this guy over here, this client. So there is a stanza it creates called target-broker, then the deployment server. This stanza name will be always fixed. Okay, then the target URI is the URI of the deployment server and the port. Okay, this is how it configured. So it basically tells this particular guy, that means our universal forwarder 1, to poll this deployment server or for some interval. That interval is also configurable, but we'll go with the default value over here. Okay, so this is one thing. So we configured our universal forwarder. Okay, so now let's go back to our diagram. So now we will be configuring our heavy forwarder to poll this guy. Okay, so to do that, we'll do the same thing. We will log into our heavy forwarder. So this is our heavy forwarder here. So I'll log in over here. Okay, it's gonna take some time. I'll pause it. Okay, we logged in over here. We'll do the same thing, sudo su. Then we will clear the prompt, clear. Okay, now what we'll do, we will go to our Splunk home. As it is a heavy forwarder, so this will be /opt/Splunk itself, because this is a full-fledged Splunk, right? Then we will go to bin folder, right? We'll run a command ./Splunk, the same command we ran for our universal forwarder over here. So this is our universal forwarder. I'll just copy that command over here. Okay, so set deploy poll, the deployment server IP and the host, insert. Okay, so it will again ask me for user ID and password. Okay, so our configuration is also added. Just to check it out, we'll go to /opt/Splunk, then we'll go to etc system local folder. Okay, so this is our deployment client, right? If I just see you here, so it is the same stanza it has created, right? And the target URI same thing. Okay, now just to give you an brief idea, like if you are maintaining the same instances which I created in my previous videos, right? So you can just if you just want to start fresh, you can delete this outputs.conf we created in under system.local. Okay, if I just ls it, currently I do not have, I think, outputs.conf over here, and inputs.conf we have created under search app local folder. You may want to delete it so that you can just start fresh for all this universal forwarder and heavy forwarder, as well as Windows forwarder as well. Okay, you can do that one. Now we have done it for our universal forwarder, we have done it for our heavy forwarder over here, right? So now the third forwarder we have it here is our Windows forwarder. So for that I already logged into this guy over here. If you are new to this video, just check it out, my Windows universal forwarder installation video. Over there I have discussed the same thing. Okay, now over here what we will do is, if you remember, when we installed Windows universal forwarder, right, Windows version of the universal forwarder, that time itself, while we are installing itself, it was asking me for the deployment server IP and the port number, right? That time we have not given it, because that time we were not configuring the deployment server with this particular universal forwarder. Now the time came, we will be updating that one, right? Now but we already installed our universal forwarder. That's why what we will do this time here, we will, as you have seen for our Unix servers, we did it through a command, right? Not this guy. We did it through this command, right? Splunk set deploy poll, right? Now for the Windows forwarder, what we'll do is we will try to update this deployment client.conf file manually. Okay, now for that what I have done is I have actually created this file deployment client.conf, and if you see it over here, I have given the same stanza name, same target URI over here, our 34.66 to 13.21, that is our deployment server IP address and password, sorry, IP address and port number, right? So what I will do is over here I will copy this guy. Okay, I'll go to our C program files, Splunk universal forwarder, etc system local, same path we went for Unix, right? We'll paste that guy over here. Okay, so now our deployment client we have created this file manually over here, if you see it, right? Now the same thing as I told, if you are maintaining the same server, you can delete the outputs.conf in this particular folder, and as well as inputs.conf in search, if you just wanted to start from fresh. Okay, now we actually created this three deployment clients.conf, right? So that these three guys will poll this guy over here, right? What we'll do is we will restart Splunk, okay, for all these three. So for that, I am in currently the Linux universal forwarder. We will go to our Splunk home bin folder. Okay, we will restart Splunk restart. Okay, let it be. We will go to our heavy forwarder. So this is our heavy forwarder over here. We will go to the same path, opt Splunk bin. I will just run Splunk start restart over here. We will go to our Windows forwarder. We will go to command prompt. We are currently in Splunk universal forwarder bin folder over here. If you see it, we will run Splunk restart over here. Okay, let it be. So our forwarder level configurations are done. Now we will move to our final configuration at the deployment server level, right? So here only the most of the configurations will be there. Okay, so now let me log into deployment server. I'll just show you something. Okay, so I already logged in. This heavy forwarder. This is our heavy forwarder. This is our heavy forwarder one. So I'll just close one window over here, as I am not using that heavy forwarder. I just don't want to confuse myself. Then I will log into this deployment server. Okay, it's going to take some time. I will just pause. Okay, we logged in now. We will sudo first. Okay, so now for the deployment server, right, if I just go back over here to this architecture of the deployment server, right, so basically inside the deployment server we will be maintaining all our apps, so that these apps will be distributed through server classes. We'll see what server classes are. Okay, so that means the first thing we'll do is create some apps. Now for this tutorial, what we'll do is we'll be creating 4 apps. Okay, let me give you a glimpse of those 4 apps over here. So we have 4 apps called forward to receiver 2, win event, and line message, let's say. Okay, so basically this Windows guy over here, it will be consuming 2 apps called win event, which basically have a single file called inputs.conf, which will basically take the application, security and system log, okay, and forward, okay, to now how it will forward through outputs.conf. That outputs.conf I'll be maintaining in another app called forward to receiver. Okay, and it will be forwarding to our this guy 35, 200, 185 and 142. So if I just go back to our diagram over here, so this is the guy over here. If you see the IP address, same IP address. Okay, now the other 2 apps is forward to receiver 2 and line message. It will be similar stuff. Okay, that means line message will have the inputs, which will basically will be monitoring the var log directory, and it will forward to another receiver, our receiver 2 over here. So if I just go back over here, this is our receiver 2, 24191, right? So this is where it will receive. So this is the outputs.conf. Okay, so now where we will keep these apps? So for that we need to go back to our deployment server. So we are in deployment server now, right? So we'll go to cd. First I will clear the prompt. Okay, we'll go to cd /opt/splunk. Okay, this is our Splunk home. We'll go to etc folder. Okay, so let's give a ls over here. Now if you see under Splunk home etc folder, there is a folder called deployment apps over here. Okay, there only we maintain all our apps which will be basically distributing to our other clients, right? So we'll go inside this particular deployment apps folder. Okay, so currently it should be empty. Okay, there is no app over here. Now in Splunk, app means a new folder, right? So we are going to create 4 new folder for these 4 apps over here. Okay, I'll just quickly create one by one. So first one, mkdir, this guy, forward to receive. Second one, forward to receiver 2, mkdir, this guy. Third one, this is our third app, mkdir, this guy. And this is our fourth guy, mkdir, this guy. Okay, so we created four folders over here. We still not created any outputs dot and inputs.conf file. Okay, currently we do not have. Okay, so now we will log into our deployment server. Okay, so for that I'll just go back over here. So this is our deployment server. I already saved this URL, so I'll go back over here to this guy. In our 4th tab, now we are logging into our deployment server. Okay, so now we are entering this phase where we will be creating this server classes. Okay, so how to do it? We'll go to settings, we'll go to forwarder management, under distributed environment forwarder management. Okay, so now you see we all as we previously we run this particular command, right? Splunk, where is it? Splunk set deploy poll. That's why if you see from our these 3 clients, it is already showing up over here. These clients are polling up continuously from this server, right? Now there are few things to notice over here. Now the forwarder management window over here, okay, the first row, it will show up how many clients currently polling this particular server, okay, how many clients are in error, okay, and how many downloads happen, how many times the clients downloaded the latest version of the app in last 1 hour. Okay, and here you will see 3 tabs: apps, server classes, and clients. Okay, and under the clients tab you will see all the clients which are currently polling over here. We'll go to the apps tab. Okay, it will show you all the folders. It will list basically all the folders under this deployment client, right? Deployment apps, sorry, not the deployment clients, deployment apps folder. Just now we created these 4 folders over here, right? So it is showing up over here. Okay, we'll go to now server classes. Okay, now the server classes is basically mapping between which client is consuming which app. Okay, so now currently we do not have any server class. We'll create server class. Okay, now for this we'll be creating 2 server classes. Okay, one for this Windows level, like Windows forwarding to our receiver. Another is this to Linux guys forwarding to our receiver 2. Okay, so 2 server classes we will maintain. So we'll first give it a name called WinDeployer, YER. Okay, we'll save it. Now when you save it, it will ask you 2 things over here: apps and the clients. That means which apps will be part of the server classes and which clients will be consuming. So if I just click on that add apps, it will list down all the apps available currently we have in our system, in our deployment server, right? So as we are doing it for our WinDeployer, and WinDeployer, as I said, will be using these 2 apps, forward to receiver and the Win event, right? So I'll be selecting these 2 guys, forward to receiver and the Win event over here. I'll be clicking on save. Okay, so now this time to add the clients. Okay, now among these three clients, this particular server class will be only applicable to our Windows forwarder. So I'll copy this host name over here, and if you see in the add clients, there are certain things over here at the bottom of the page. It lists down all the available clients currently polling to this deployment server, right? In the above portion of the page, it has two things: include and exclude. So include list, you are basically giving the list of the servers. Okay, you can give comma separated list as well, or you can use some kind of regular expression like star as well. Okay, now the regular expression can be on the client name, host name, IP address, or DNS name over here. If you see from this list itself, you can create a regular expression and you can give it over here. So as we have on a single server, I will just giving the host name of the server over here. Okay, and if you want to exclude some server which should not pull anything from this deployment server, you'll be giving it over here in the same format. Okay, now I'll be clicking on save. Now two things over here. Whenever I clicked on save, two things happened. This if you see, this guy is saying 100% clients are currently deployed app successfully, and this guy's how many times it has deployed. Okay, before I check into that one, what we'll do is we'll go to each of this app. Okay, Windows event, we'll go to edit of this app. Okay, this only one configuration you need to do is over here is the restart Splunk. Enable app will be there already. Okay, if it is not there, you have to enable it as well. Now what restart Splunk means, like whenever this app will be deployed to the client, it will also restart the Splunk as well automatically. You do not need to go and again restart the Splunk manually. Okay, this is what this particular setting is telling us. I'll be clicking on save. Okay, the same thing I'll be doing it for forward to receiver as well. Okay, we'll go to edit, we'll check this checkbox, we'll be clicking on save. Okay, so currently now it is saying, as we have only configured our Windows forwarder to get that update from this deployment server, so let's check it out in our Windows. We'll be going over there. Okay, in the now the apps will be deployed as usual. Other apps, the normal place we deploy, right? It's under Splunk home, etc, apps folder. Okay, if you see, it already got these two folders, forward to receiver and our win event. Currently this folder is empty. Okay, because we did not put any configurations over there. Okay, it just only have our local and some metadata files. Okay, which Splunk automatically creates. Okay, so these things, that means at least the connection between our Windows forwarder and the deployment server is now established, right? Now we'll do the same thing for our universal forwarder and the heavy forwarder as well. Okay, we'll go to server classes, we'll create a new server class. As I told, for Linux based systems, Linux based forwarders will be maintaining a separate server class. It's always good practice. Either you can maintain a server class based on operating system, or you can maintain server class based on a location, geographic location as well. Okay, so we'll give, let's say, Linux deployer. Okay, we'll save it. It will again ask me for the apps and clients. I'll first add apps. Okay, so these two guys will be using the receiver 2 and the line message app, right? I'll save it, and first I'll add the clients. So currently these two guys only will be consuming those two apps. So forwarder 1, comma, here if you are seeing the heavy forwarder and the universal forwarder, I'm giving it as a comma separated list. Okay, I'll be saving it. As usual, for these two guys, I'll be going to edit and restart Splunk. Okay, so I have done for line message. Then I'll go to receiver 2, edit, restart Splunk, save. Okay, so our server class configurations are done. Just to check it out, where those configurations are saved, we'll go to our deployment server over here. Okay, we will go to cd /opt /splunk etc. Okay, system local folder. Okay, we'll give it ls over here. If you see, it created a file called server class.configuration, right? vi server class.conf. That if you see it over here, for each and every app it created a stanza over here: server class colon win deployer, then the app name, similar way. Okay, so for win deployer is our name of the server class over here. If you see, for Linux we created Linux deployer over here, right? So this is how the server class.conf file looks like. So we'll just come out of it. Now if you want to manually update this guy as well, you can do that. Okay, so now our basic structure is ready, but our apps are still do not have any brain, right? We'll add brain to our apps now. So what we'll do is, now we will add those inputs.conf and outputs.conf files to our corresponding apps. Okay, now for that, if I just go back over here, don't worry about this guy. So I'll be giving this particular configurations in my git folder as well. Okay, so forward to receiver, so it will be a outputs.conf, right? If you see, it's a TCP out, right? So if you're not sure about how TCP out works, I have already created a video for universal forwarder configurations. Have a look at that one. Okay, so for that, what I'll do, I'll go inside this particular app. So I'll go to our deployment server. So currently I am in system local folder, right? So I will be going 1 or 2 step back. So that means I'll be going etc. Okay, I have to go to deployment apps file folder, right? So we'll go to deployment apps folder. So if I just give ls over here, so I have 4 apps sitting over there, right? I'll just clear the screen. So ls, our 4 apps over there. We'll go to first app, forward to receiver. Okay, we'll go inside that. Now inside this one, currently we have only the local folder, right? We'll create a new folder called default, where we'll be storing that outputs.conf file, mkdir default, default. Okay, then we'll go inside the default, right? We'll be creating a file called outputs.conf, right? So we'll be copying this settings over here. We'll go to insert mode, paste it. Okay, we'll come out insert mode, save it. Okay, so our outputs.conf file is ready. Okay, outputs.conf, yeah, so this is ready. So now one app is ready. Now we will go to the second app. So we will go 1 level up /2 level up. Okay, so that means currently we are in deployment apps folder. We'll give ls. Our second is forward to receiver app, right? So for that, it's again outputs.conf, it is storing, right? So we'll go inside forward to receiver app. We will create a new folder, right? mkdir default, correct? Now we will go inside default. We'll create a new file called outputs.conf. Okay, we'll copy this guy over here. So I already have saved this server IPs as well, whatever I have discussed before, right? So I'm just copying and pasting it over here. So then I will just save this guy over here. So this app is also ready. I'll just go 2 level up to be in the deployment apps folder. I'll give ls. Our third app is line message. We'll go inside line message, right? So we'll create a similar folder, mkdir default fault. Okay, now these two guys, line message and the win event, are storing inputs.conf, right? So I'll be creating a inputs.conf file now. Okay, so for that we'll go to default folder. Okay, we will create a new file called inputs.conf. okay, we will go to insert mode, we will paste it over here, will come out insert mode, save it. Okay, just check it out. Yeah, it is there. Now we'll come out of this guy again, right? We'll clear the screen so that we won't confuse ourselves. ls. Now we will go inside the win event, right? So we will go to win event, right? Now we will create a folder called default. We will go inside the default. We will create a new file called inputs.conf. Okay, we will copy this guy over here. Insert mode, paste, come out of insert mode, save it. Okay, so I hope I have done it correctly. So let us check it out once. Sometimes I don't go inside the default folder and I just save it. So win event looks good. So if I just go back, if I just go to cd line message, just ls it, even this looks good. I have not created any file outside the default folder. If I just come back over here and go inside forwarder to receiver, ls it, yes, this looks good too. If I just come back and if I just go to forwarder to receiver 2, ls, this looks good too. Okay, so that means we have added some files, some configurations files, right, which will pull the data and push the data to Splunk, those configurations to our apps, right? Now somehow we have to tell our clients, right? So there is some update, right? So for that you need to run a command. Whenever you make some changes to the app, you need to run a command called Splunk reload deploy server. Okay, this is important step. So I'll just run it over here. So you cannot run it from here. You have to go to Splunk home bin folder /opt Splunk bin, okay, /Splunk, then I just reload deploy server, insert. Okay, so basically it will ask you for your user ID and password. Okay, so now it's refreshed the server class. Now let us go back to our deployment server over here. Okay, and see if I just refresh it now, currently it is showing 0, right? It is now increasing this count. That means now clients are basically getting that update. It's already deployed these two guys. If I just refresh it again, ideally other two guys should be polled as well, should be taking the update as well. So currently I have one client which is found home. Okay, so let us wait for some time. Okay, just now I refreshed, so it is showing up 3 clients now, all polled over here. Just to check it out whether these clients have downloaded the latest update or not, let us check it out. We'll start from our favorite guy, Windows forwarder over here. Okay, so we are currently etc apps folder. I'll just refresh it. Okay, so if you see forward to receiver, if I just go inside, okay, it got the default folder and it got the outputs.conf update with the same update over here. Right now if I just check the similar way, win event folder, so it got the update as well as the input. It is same thing, right? We'll just check it for our universal forwarder over here. We'll go to cd /opt Splunk forwarder etc apps folder, right? So if I just give ls over here, so forward to receiver 2 and the line mesh, these two are the apps it should get. So if I just go inside forward to receiver 2, okay, if I just give ls over here, yes, it got the default folder. Okay, so if I just go to default folder, give a ls over here, it got the outputs.conf as well, vi outputs.conf. okay, it got this update as well. That means our universal forwarder also got the update. Let's check it out our heavy forwarder over here. So this is our heavy forwarder window, right? We'll clear the screen. We'll go to cd/opt/splunk now, right? etc apps. Now if I just see forward to receiver 2 also it got, we'll check it out first. cd this guy, if I just give ls, yes, it got default, cd default. If I just vi, okay, what is the file it should get? I think it should get outputs.conf. yeah, vi outputs.conf. so this is, it got update as well. Okay, and the last app is our line message app, right? So we will go to //. okay, kindly apps folder. So we'll quickly go to line message, cd default, yes, it is having default, vi outputs.conf. okay, it did not get, okay, it has inputs.conf. okay, yeah, inputs.conf, vi inputs.conf, it got the update as well. So that means if we have done everything correctly, our two receivers which are sitting from beginning of our tutorial, they should be receiving our data, right? So let's check it out. If you see it over here, this 185.142, so if I just go back over here, so this is our 185.142. that means it should receive the data from our Windows forwarder, right? If I just check the host, it is getting the data from our Windows forwarder over here. And the second guy over here, if I just run it, okay, it got 396 events. Now if I just tally it over here with these two servers, like this is our server 240.191, 240.191, right? Now this should get data from this universal forwarder as well as heavy forwarder over here. So if I just check the host over here, so our heavy forwarder and the universal forwarder are showing up over here. Okay, that means we have done the configurations correctly. So this is how we use a deployment server to manage a list of forwarders, right? Now you can use the deployment server to manage other indexers or searches as well, to deploy apps over there, until and unless they are in cluster. In cluster environment you cannot use it, as I said earlier. Okay, another important thing I forgot to mention over here is all these servers are able to talk to each other, right? Because of one configuration you need to do in our Google Cloud, where we need to go to this VPC network, then firewall rules. I actually added one firewall rule called, any name you can give, okay, but the main important thing is you have to open the connection for TCP 8089. So basically you need to create a new firewall rule, okay, allow all the connections for 8089. If you have seen my previous videos, I have shown like how to create a new firewall rules, right? The same way you can do, but the protocol you need to select TCP and the port number you have to give 8089. That is important. Otherwise your clients will not be able to poll deployment server, and deployment server will not be able to push the data to a client as well. Okay, in next video we will move into the world of clustering. Okay, see you in next video.